viewers. Welcome to the Women's Voice, a platform by Women Rights Initiative. My name is Annette Meritono, and I'm going to be moderating today's show. And this week, we are honored to have Ochai Alfred. Let him introduce himself and tell us the kind of work he does. And I hope that we will have an interesting discussion and a learning session. Welcome, Alfred.
All right. Thank you so much, Annette. Thank you for the nice, introduction. Yeah, my name is Alfred Ochaya. I work with the Support and Love via Education, Salve International. We do counseling, we rehabilitate, we offer educational support. Uh, to the street connected children, and also we reunite them back home to their families, because we believe that children belong to families, therefore they should be in families, they should be in homes. So I'm so happy to be hosted on this online discussion. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Today we are going to be discussing childhood domestic violence and specifically focusing on what caregivers uh, never consider or what they should know. And Alfred, straight away, I want you to begin by defining probably what childhood domestic violence is and give us a picture of the situation in our country, Uganda, so that our viewers can connect and then we proceed with the discussion. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much again, Annette. uh, Child domestic violence, I would say, is that is any form of harm that is inflicted to children, and it could be in different forms. It could be in forms of physical, could be emotional, could be psychological, could be sexual abuse, could be neglect, could be negligence, commercial, or any other form of exploitation. And of course, we know that this results into actual or potential harm to the child's health, survival, development. Yeah, so basically, childhood domestic violence is very, 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 very bad. And yes, it does happen not only in institutions where we have caregivers, not only, but it happens in quite many, many, many places. It happens at workplace. It happens so long as children are there. It happens at the homes where children grow up from. It happens in schools where we see our children in. It also does happen online, okay, with digital, you know, digital migration, digital advancement. We see the use of internet, and if people don't restrict the use of internet, you find that they end up, children end up uh, misusing the internet, therefore affecting them psychologically or causing really harm to them. Um, Basically, in Uganda, child domestic violence is on the increase, and the couple of times when we talk about violence, people tend to look at violence against, against women, but forgetting that violence against children is as well at the increase. According to Uganda violence survey that was done in 2018, and many other research are still happening looking at violence against children. It is said that the recent Ugandan national violence against girls survey said that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys suffer sexual violence during their childhood. Can you imagine? 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys suffer sexual violence during their childhood. And also, it continues to say, the statistics say that 70% of the boys suffer physical violence. So you can see that violence is actually at the increase, and we really need to do something about this. So when it comes to schools, the survey still revealed that um, about 1 in 4 Ugandan girls between the ages of 18 to 24 years, that is about 28%, and also those between the age of 13 to 17 years, that is about 80 boys between 18 to 20 years, that is 27%, have missed school due to what? Due to physical violence. So, like you can see, physical violence is happening in the schools, and also it's happening in the communities. It happens in the in quite many areas where children are growing up from. So there is really need to address the issue of childhood, domestic violence. Thank you so much, Annette.
Thank you, Alfred. You talked about the environments where abuse happens, but we want to understand exactly what happens when a child is exposed to violence.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. When a child is exposed to violence, of course, it really affects the child's physical, emotional, psychological, psychological really development. So it is really not good. So what happened is that, for instance, in schools, children who are exposed to violence or physical violence, they really have difficulty in coping up with the school because they know that there is this particular teacher, who is always beating them. And what happened is that even in schools they may end up missing. They miss schools. They say because, for instance, if a certain teacher X is the one conducting a lesson, for instance, mathematics, and this teacher is found of beating children, so that child may end up dodging the lesson, for that particular teacher. Then also, when they are exposed to violence, we can see they end up, starting to abuse drugs. They start to abuse drugs because they want to kind of forget what is happening and all that. So, and also when they're exposed to violence, you find that like for us who are working with students living on the streets, you find that there are many cases of children leaving home due to violence. We do statistics. We always ask them what are the reasons why you leave home and come to the streets. Many of them have told us it is because of the violence. So they are running away from the environment where there is violence, and they are coming to the streets to an environment where there is no violence. Yeah. Then also there is mental distress when they're exposed to violence. They face mental distress. Sometimes they act aggressively. So there are some behaviors that children exhibit. Sometimes when you see them acting that way, it is because of what? Because of that exposure. That exposure to violence. Then the other thing that also happens when they are exposed to violence, for instance, sexual violence in this case, you find that they are what we call early childhood pregnancies. Early childhood pregnancies. A girl of below 18 years is pregnant because he has been exposed to sexual abuse. Then the other thing that I also see, when they're exposed to domestic violence, they can contract STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. So they also suffer depression and many other health problems. So it is really not good for the children at that young age to be exposed to violence.
So, Alfred, speaking about how children are affected and probably how we
Mm,
can support that a child
mm,
may be facing violence or may be coming from an abusive environment, what may be
mm,
the causes of abuse? Because you
mm,
said it happens in schools, it happens in homes,
mm, mm,
sometimes even on the streets. For example, the children
mm,
that live on the streets. So, what
mm,
may be the causes of this kind of abuse?
mm. Yeah, the causes of domestic violence are quite many, or violence in general. Uh, One of the causes could be, poverty in some families. The fact they may not be having all the basic needs, and the fact that they are struggling to get food. They decide to either beat the children. The child may ask for something. Daddy, I'm hungry. Mommy, I need something to eat. So because they don't have what to give the child, they decide to beat the child. and that is actually not proper. Then also coming to schools, yeah, some children have difficulties in picking up, in class. They are slow learners, and what teachers do is they decide to beat the children, and actually beating the children should not be the reason for you to beat this child. So that is also one of the reasons as to why um, some some teachers end up doing violence against the children. Uh, coming to coming to communities, uh, there are quite many things that probably may bring in violence against children. There is this belief. I would say this is a myth. In African culture, they say that you have to cane the child. If you don't get a stick to cane the child, then the child will not learn. Yeah. So they believe that that's the only way out to discipline the child. So that kind of myth that attitude has really to change, because you are causing harm to this child. So that is I've seen what that's also one of the things that have really caused that increase in cases of domestic violence. Yeah. So basically, there are really quite many. In schools, there's also bullying. A fellow child may bully this new child who has just come to school, and when you bully this child uh, becomes like develops fear. Develops fear, and begins can even hate everybody. So bullying is also not a good thing. So it has to stop. Yeah. So among other reasons, there are quite really many, many, many reasons as to why, many causes of what of child domestic violence.
So, Alfred, you mentioned the kind of discipline that happens in schools and
Yeah.
also in homes. We've seen it in homes where children are beaten, and
Yeah.
in the process,
Mm.
they are hurt
Yeah.
physically or emotionally or psychologically. Are
Mm.
there probably a few positive disciplining mechanisms that you can speak about for parents out there that are watching, or for teachers to
Mm.
adopt,
Mm.
that, so that uh, discipline is in a way that is for a child to learn, but not to
Mm.
hurt them?
Okay. Yeah. Well, uh, actually, I what is happening is that we need to um, we need to emphasize positive discipline. The government right now is actually emphasizing positive discipline, that children should not be beaten while in schools. So they emphasize so much of positive discipline, and they actually there is a law that has passed on, and they say, should any teacher be found beating a child, then what happened is that you will either be expelled, or you may lose your job. Yeah. So and all teachers are aware of this. For those who don't have copies of the positive discipline, you can get a copy from the Ministry of Education and Sports, or from the inspector of schools from the district where you are staying. So emphasis on positive discipline is very, 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 very key. So make sure that you don't beat children. Even in institutions, the government is still advocating for positive discipline. So children should not be beaten. What you could do is, tell children what they should do. What's the right thing that they can do? Don't beat the child, but tell them that what are the consequences. Perhaps if the child is behaving in a manner that is not appropriate, just talk to him and tell him what are some of those consequences. What are those consequences of that bad behavior. Don't beat the child. Beating should not be the solution for you to either to the solution to that, to what you want, what you desire from the child. Rather, tell the child what is this good practice and this what good practice, where can it lead the child to? So emphasis to positive discipline is very very key, and many NGOs and they are also emphasizing positive discipline for those who are having children under institutional care, with that alternative uh, with that alternative what alternative care. They emphasize as well positive discipline, those who are having children under care. So caregivers, let us ensure that we don't inflict violence to children. Let us not beat them, rather show them what are the consequences of uh, the bad things they're doing. What can it lead them to? Then what are these good practices, and what can it lead them to? Coming to homes, so parents who are listening out there, beating a child should not be the reason for you to either uh, inflict, see the child grow up in a better manner. What you have to do is also emphasize, you know, positive discipline. Don't beat the child. What you can do is there are some small rewards you can introduce in the home. For instance, you may be having about 4 children, and then perhaps this child has excelled, has done well in this. You can try to give a gift to this child who has excelled well. Then this one who has not excelled well, don't beat her or him. So by you giving that gift to this person who has excelled, will also make this other person to perform so well, to really make sure that she performs well, to achieve that reward that you gave to the other person. So parents, you have to know that violence is criminal. It is against the law. Should you be found beating a child, then you are going to be imprisoned. It's a crime. It's a criminal. It's a crime. It's a very 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 big crime. In Uganda we have laws that are against children's. Like that's against violence against children. There are laws. There are existing laws that are against. For instance, we have the Children's Act. Uh, we have quite many. Even the national child policy that was launched in 2020 also talks about violence against children. Should anybody be found doing violence to a child, then you will be imprisoned. So what? Let us emphasize so much on positive discipline. I appeal to all caregivers, whoever is having children under their care, let us emphasize on positive discipline, and let us not do violence against children.
Thank you so much. Alfred,
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
want Rebecca commented and said that we should focus on the children that stay with stepmothers and
Mm,
probably guardians. I wanted you to
mm,
speak more about the signs
mm,
that you can see as bystanders or neighbors or concerned citizens and
mm,
know that probably this child
mm,
is facing abuse
mm,
and try to understand how best we can help such a child.
mm. Yeah. Well, there are quite many, many signs that you may notice in a child that is, facing abuse. The way they interact with their fellow children. You may see this particular child, um, isolated. Like he may look isolated. It's not like playing together with other children. So that is a signal that, well, there's something wrong, that this child is going through. And also, you may see that this child is having a lot of, like, fear. He's having fear. For instance, in a home where you have a violent father, whenever he comes back, everybody is quiet. Nobody's talking anything. In that family, you can either notice that, oh, this gentleman, I think, is the what? Is the perpetrator of violence, yeah, against children. Yes, so that happens a lot, and when you see that, you get to know that, this family, this is what is happening. There is a way children behave. There's a lot of anxiety amongst the children. There is also depression. You know, I also want to think that you mentioned this. Sometimes when you see children having those feelings of suicidal feelings, saying, Jakwe, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to do this. When a child mentions that to you as a caregiver, you meet that child and have a one-to-one counseling. Why do you want to kill yourself? So some of those, when you see those suicidal feelings and sayings in a child, you'll basically know that yes, this child is what is going through violence. I remember I interacted with a boy on the streets, and this boy actually he left the street because of I think there's a lot that he was going through, and I guess it was emotional or psychological kind of violence. His father told him that he will never, he will never excel in class. He is a stupid boy, you know. He is worthless. He is hopeless. So this kind of statement affected this boy psychologically and emotionally. So it takes us back to emotional violence. So now when we interacted with this boy, asking him, why have you left, why have you left home? The boy said that my father told me that I am hopeless, I am this and this, I am stupid. Of course, for us as an organization, we want to see children be reunited back home to their families. So when we told him that we want to take you back home, we have all the transport, we want to take you back home. The boy said, I will not go back. The father told me, I am stupid, I am hopeless, I am this and this. So affected the boy psychologically, and we had to really have a deeper counseling with him to convince him. So afterwards, he accepted, and then we reunited him to another alternative relative. Then I think afterwards they resolved their issues, and the boy was taken back home to the family. So you can see that kind of thing is not really is not good. So violence. So those are some of the signals or the signs that you can see that a child is what is going through violence. Yeah.
It's Alfred. Also considering the work that is done around supporting children that probably go through abuse, there are also children that tend to be neglected for reasons that probably they might not have a voice, and there's a lot of abuse happening around children with disabilities. And how I want you to have a message for those caregivers and guardians that support children with disabilities, and also the community, because it's always never a parent's role to do all that kind of parenting and support, especially when it comes to children with disabilities. How best can we support the parents, and how can parents begin looking at these children as normal children?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Annette. Regardless of the status of the child, be it you are having a disability or you're not having a disability, all children are children, and there should be inclusiveness. There should be inclusiveness. That's why the government right now is advocating for inclusiveness of all vulnerable people. If you have a disability, if your child has a disability, please don't segregate this child from the other child. They are all they are all children. Love them equally. And if you're a parent out there and you're listening to me, you have a child with disability. Do not neglect this child. If you're having some difficulties in either in how to care for this child. There are some organizations through our network that we know that work with children with disabilities. They can support you. You may be needing either therapy or in any form. They are there. They are existing. So please network with the NGOs. talk to them. They have any organization that is near you. They have networks of organizations that are doing different things that may help. So please, if you have a child with disability, make sure that you don't ignore that child. That child can what can excel as well. A child is a child, you know. If so, love them equally, share things with them equally. And there is also a law that is against those who are doing violence or are mistreating children with disabilities. So please include children, give them basic needs equally. Do not segregate them. It is God who put them on earth, and there is a reason as to why He put them on earth, and they are in that way. In that way, so don't neglect them. Love them, not just like God said. Let the children come to me. So regardless of whether you are disabled or you are not disabled, yes. Even our government is advocating for support for all children, regardless of your status, whether you are disabled or not disabled. Coming to working environment, the government is also advocating for a conducive working environment for all people. You know, if even if children with the even if they are children with even if they are people who graduates who have disability, there's that inclusiveness nowadays. They are advocating for them to be included. You know, to be included in our plans. Yeah.
That is interesting. I hope
Yeah.
that the
Thank you.
parents out there that are watching and other caregivers can learn from this, because it's really important to understand that the children
Mm,
are left, as children are left in our care, we need to
mm,
support them, we need to love them, we need
yeah.
to give them what they need so that they can grow to
Yeah.
be better people, to be citizens, responsible citizens. And
Yes.
also, Alfred, when we were beginning this conversation, you
Mm,
mentioned that because of the transition
mm,
that has happened due
mm,
to the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot of
mm,
exposure to the internet
mm,
and the digital way of doing things. I
mm,
wanted to speak about
mm,
how best parents can guide children
mm,
now that children are learning how to use gadgets, children have
mm,
free internet for learning,
mm.
and there's a lot that is happening. How best
Yeah.
can, because I know that a home can be safe
Mm,
and a child may not be abused, and
mm,
but then you can probably be abused
mm,
through that channel. So please,
mm,
uh, can you speak about how parents can guide children and how this
mm,
can be done?
mm. Yeah. Well, you know, COVID-19 taught us many things. When lockdown happened, many people started studying online and all that. However, those who can't afford the gadgets, especially in the rural areas, for them the children were not studying. But children in the urban centers, you know, they and in those high class schools, they started teaching children in a digital way. Zoom meetings and all that. So as these gadgets were bought for children, there was actually that increase in the misuse of the internet, because the parents were not restricting the children on what movies and what programs to watch. A child goes to internet, goes to YouTube, and begins searching for, could be pornographic stuff, and uh, and that actually affects the child psychologically or emotionally, and this child's mind can really change a lot, and when he looks at you as somebody who is because the mind has already been eroded with quite many things. So what we have to do as parents, I know, yes, these gadgets are there for the children, but try to restrict some programs. There are some apps that children install on the phone. Let it be you to be exemplary. Guide them. Don't leave them to do each and everything. They are going to face emotional violence, and it's going to affect them a lot. And even people who are in the internet cafes, there should be restrictions. Nowadays, when I go to internet cafe, I see restrictions. They say watching of pornographic movies is not allowed, so those things are there. Why they have introduced those things? Because children of this generation are very sharp, they are very, 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 very sharp. So as we want them to thrive and grow and be better children in the future, the ministers, the whatever, the presidents, let us ensure that the environment they are living, the things that they do are not affecting them psychologically, you know. So one of the things is these gadgets. These gadgets have really caused more harm than good. But the way we have to do this is that we have to um, it has to begin by us parents restricting some of the programs that they install into their apps. And by the way, something that you have to know, there is now what we call uh, computer misuse penalty. You know, should you be found sending a bad movie to a child and the child is watching this movie either via WhatsApp, either via what, they will trace for the source who has sent that bad movie. And if you are found, you're going to be taken to prison. So this is something that you all have to know. All the viewers who are watching this program, it is there in Uganda. It is there in Uganda. Should you be found doing that, you are going to be arrested and you'll be taken to prison because that is a crime. That is a crime. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know, Alfred, and thank you for sharing. And I was think as you mentioned that children from the rural areas probably didn't have the internet and
Yeah. Yeah. The children didn't have the
that
internet.
is
Mm.
is I was saying that children
Yeah.
from the rural areas like they did have the gadgets, but they
Yes.
have all the time to watch TV and
Mm.
and also there are programs that are not appropriate for children to watch. And since in most cases parents are busy and they tend to leave children to be alone watching these programs. Uh, I wanted you to speak more about the
Mm.
parental guidance and how best
Mm.
parents can be
Mm.
parents in that area specifically.
Mm. Yeah. So it begins by us parents monitoring, monitoring, like Sandra saying, it has to begin by parents. You monitor the children. What kind of programs are they watching? Our TVs have quite very many channels, and many children you find them like on a certain particular channel, cartoons, but then also you find a certain age bracket. Especially that bracket of, I could say, between the age of 15 coming to 18. They are so inquisitive and they want to watch those soaps. Those soaps. Remember, you may be having a child, you may having children. There are those between the age of, let me say, 7 and below. Those are cartoons. Then we also have those at the age of 15 to 18. Those one, they are so much inquisitive. They want to know about relationship and all that. So what they can do is they may start watching their programs, for instance, relationships, Nigeria, those things, those soaps and all that. Remember, even these young ones they are seated with these ones. So it has to begin by us parents sitting the children down, putting restrictions. That at home I don't want to see you watch this program. Or what you can do, you can only pay for certain channels, for certain channels that are fit for the age bracket of the children that you have. Because these children are going to watch programs that are going to spoil them, and are going to spoil them, and they will teach them quite very, very, very many bad habits. So it all begins by parents having, I can say, rules of the home. In my home, I don't want to see this. In my home, I don't want to do this. And if you find any child doing something that is contrary to what you introduce, please punish that child positively. Don't do violence, don't violate the rights of this child, but punish them for it.
I think that the network is not our best ally today, but for viewers that have joined this conversation, this is the Women's Voice, and today we are speaking about childhood domestic violence and what, as parents or as caregivers, we should know, and things that we probably never consider. And our guest today is Ochaya Alfred from South, trying to speak to parents, speak to viewers and the community about how best we can support children and how we can do our roles as parents and guardians. And we were speaking about how the world is moving fast and how children are now exposed to gadgets, to internet, and how this can probably lead to abuse because they tend to be new, they tend not to know what is happening and everything is new around them. So it's very important for parents to always come in to monitor what children are watching. And even Alfred was speaking about cartoons. Even cartoons have age ranges. A cartoon that is supposed to be watched by a 13-year-old is not a cartoon that a 3-year-old should be watching. So even when they are left to watch cartoons, it's very important for parents to first watch the cartoons and then probably give it to children to watch because you never know. We have different values and beliefs. Come from different cultures, and most of these cartoons are not don't have content of our culture. They come from probably other settings. So it's best for parents to also watch the cartoons before they give them to children to watch. And also, Alfred, what I wanted to say that even all those programs that are put on television, they indicate which programs need parental guidance and those that can be generally watched. So parents should watch out for programs that need parental guidance. Yeah.
True. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yes, yeah, yeah. So if we do that, then we are going to raise up children who are really very good children and children who will excel in their life, and yeah, children who will really be very good children. Yeah. So we just need to make sure that we do that. Do those good practices. Yeah.
So, Alfred, as we conclude in the last minutes, I want you to speak about how best we can support children because as you work with Salve International, I know there are a lot of organizations that support children, but we want to understand how the process is if there's a child that is abused and probably I'm a neighbor or I'm a church leader or I'm a bystander. What is the process that that
Yeah.
is there to support children?
Yeah. Well, there are many cases that we've handled as an organization. One is when children are abused uh, in the community. We have people that we report to. For instance, we make use of the Child and Family Protection Unit. We've always made use of the office to report cases of physical and emotional and any forms of abuse. We've handled quite many cases and reported many cases to them. There is a recent one that we are handling is of actually a 15-year-old girl who was abused sexually by 6 men uh, in the city, in the town, and the case is still on. And what happened is two people have already been arrested. Two perpetrators of sexual violence have been arrested. Meanwhile, we have rehabilitated this girl child, as more investigation is still going on. So I encourage the community. People are watching me here. Please make use of report these cases of child abuse to the Child and Family Protection Unit. We also have organizations like WORRY. that are also handling cases of GBV, gender-based violence. Please make use of them. They have a helpline that you can call in case you are so far away. You can always make use of them and call and to report those cases of of abuse that does happen in the communities. We also do have the probation and social welfare office. Yeah, these ones also handle issues to do with the child welfare. In case of any issues to do with the child, any case of child abuse, and please report to the probation and social welfare officer, and immediately they'll come in to what to intervene. In schools, the violence does happen in schools. Children or parents who are listening, who are viewing this program, please uh, speak to your children to report cases of violence to the headmaster. Then the headmaster will take action. These cases do happen, and some of the children keep quiet. Let us make sure that we break the silence. Let us not make sure. Let us actually increase that relationship with the children, because when you have that better relationship with the child will be able to open up to you for quite many things. So when they open up to you, ensure that you tell them the reporting mechanism. When in school, they should report to the headmaster, and then the headmaster what will take action. uh, yeah, so basically, that is that. I know at certain point, Annette may either read to you the helpline of worry. They also handle quite many cases of GBV, so that the viewers on this platform, you can either call to report some of these cases of violence.
Thank you, Alfred. We are concluding and speaking
Yeah.
about the referral mechanism and how children can seek support, or how parents can know, guardians out there can know how to support children.
Mm.
You spoke about the system in schools and how
Yeah.
probably learners can report. And I
Yeah.
remembered when early this year I was in Tororo doing some
Mm.
counseling
Mm.
for girls, and we are
Mm.
speaking about reporting the cases to the teachers, and
Mm.
they posed the question, and there was like, so in case it's the headmaster who is abusing me, where do I
Mhm.
report the headmaster? And so,
Okay. Mm. Mm.
and it was such
Mm.
a question, but how to applaud schools that have put
Mm.
counseling counseling areas for children, and those
Mm.
that
Mm.
have spaces where children can speak freely, and
Mhm.
also those that have suggestion boxes where learners can put their concerns for
Mm.
people to
Mm.
understand how they feel and how they
Mm.
need to be supported.
Mm.
It's,
Mm.
it's never easy for it's always where children uh, where we think that they are safe is
Mhm.
where they are abused. So we need to really
Yeah.
like
Mm.
take precaution and understand
Mm.
that
Mm.
anyone can abuse a child,
Mm.
and it
Mm.
takes
Mm.
everyone to support a child, and that the
True.
human rights
Mm.
are for
Mm.
everyone,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
regardless of your race, your color, your age.
Mm.
Everyone
Mm.
deserves to live a peaceful life. So, Alfred,
Yeah.
please conclude by telling those that have joined
Mm. Yeah.
about schools and where
Mm.
you're located and which kind of services you give, so that they know how
Mm.
to probably seek
Mm.
services if they
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, basically, we are located in Jinja and Jinja City. We are in Namalesa Parish, Mafuria Sub County, Wakalinga Village, and yet what we do is we resettle, rehabilitate street connected children. That's what we do. We also offer educational support. We advocate for children's rights. Advocate for we want children to thrive and live in a better environment. I want to really send my gratitude to Worry for really creating this online platform to give us opportunity to really, air out issues that are happening regarding children and many other vulnerable people. I really want to applaud you so much for this opportunity. And please, I also want to thank Ginger District and the NGOs that are in Ginger, and the LCs and the different people advocating for the rights of children living on the streets. Please let us ensure that we keep children safe. So I end by saying that let us end violence against children.
thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you for following today's conversation. Until next week, may God bless you. Bye.